Geophysicist Stefan Burns here with more breaking news as it relates to this earthquake swarm that's occurring right now in the Aegean Sea, right off the coast of Santorini Island in the Cristiana Santorini Colombo volcanic field. Santorini Volcano has been experiencing uplift, and this seismic swarm now consists of more than 15,000 events in just about 2 weeks, which is very impressive. Leading us to wonder, why is this seismic swarm occurring in the first place? Is it volcanic? Is it just some sort of tectonic event? Well, we have more precursor signals that have been observed out of Cumiana, Italy by VLF.IT. In fact, we saw 2 different sets of anomalous electromagnetic signals. Today, February 13th, we had a batch of them early in the morning, and now we've had the strongest by far precursor signals yet today in the evening universal time. So now we've seen 4 different sets of precursor signals appear in the background vertical electric field as measured out of Cumiana, Italy. This is February 9th, 10th, 11th, and then also today on the 13th, which is kind of begging the question of, is there something big that's about to occur in the Mediterranean? Because these sort of disturbances to the background vertical electric field are not common. In fact, they're quite anomalous, very unusual. You do not see them often. You usually only see them before a high magnitude earthquake. There's a rich body of research and evidence for that. And you see them either from ionospheric disturbances, like sudden ionospheric disturbances or traveling ionospheric disturbances, or from telluric currents at depth, very powerful electric currents flowing through Earth's surface, which produce these electromagnetic waves. So it can be either ionospheric or it can be telluric in nature, or both simultaneously. That's more usually the cause, but we're seeing now some very powerful pre-earthquake signals out of Cumiana, Italy, the most powerful that we've seen yet. And this is corresponding with this decrease in earthquakes out of Santorini. So this first batch of pre-earthquake signals was when we had earthquake frequency go down. Then they basically disappeared when we had this resurgence of earthquakes. But now we've had the strongest ones yet, just as these earthquakes seem to be cooling off, which is an interesting correlation. Now, the strongest earthquakes that we've had yet in this swarm is a magnitude 5.3, 2 magnitude 5.2s, 6 magnitude 5.1s, and 2 magnitude 5s. So they're all clustered fairly close together. And it seems likely that if this is some sort of foreshock seismic swarm, that the earthquake, which will then be the main shock, will be about 1 magnitude greater in its scale at least. So it could be a magnitude 6 or greater. We know that the historic strongest earthquake in this region is that 7.8 that occurred in 1956. So I would say that represents the upper bound, but keep in mind that the size of an earthquake, its magnitude depends on the length of the rupture. So you need a longer fault to rupture to get a higher magnitude earthquake. And so we need to see a very long fault rupture simultaneously to get something over magnitude 7. But these pre-earthquake signals that we are seeing are very powerful, which could indicate a very high magnitude earthquake coming very soon. That is a possibility. Let's explore it. So here we have our most recent anomalous electromagnetic signals. This is being measured out of Cumiana, Italy by VLF.IT. They maintain an open observatory there, and they post this data regularly, updated every 30 minutes. We have 3 different data sets here. We have our 0 to 105 hertz vertical electric field. Then we have our 0 to 1500 hertz vertical electric field. Then also our 0 to 15,000 hertz vertical electric field. And we see that up top, in general, the colors are blue. We see our power legend. That means that there isn't that much power in the background electromagnetic field. This is being measured from the ground surface up to the ionosphere. It's measuring those vibrations that sit upon that electric field, that electric current. And so when you have a quiet electromagnetic field, but then you see these sort of anomalous signals very powerfully stacked on top of that, that tells you that there's something very weird that's happening, whether it's some sort of ionospheric disturbance or some sort of very powerful telluric current or currents flowing at depth, or more likely both simultaneously. So let's punch in on that. Now that we've zoomed in, you can really see just how anomalous these electromagnetic signals are, potential precursor signals. Here we have our frequency scale, 0 hertz down below, 105 hertz up above. This line there is 50 hertz power grid noise, and then a harmonic of that at 100 hertz. we look over here, we see our Schumann resonances, which are naturally resonant wavelengths of light with the Earth. And so they're always propagating because they're created by a variety of phenomena like lightning or charging of the ionosphere due to solar radiation. A whole bunch of things create Schumann resonances. They're always propagating in the background. So we have 8 hertz right there for mode 1, 14 hertz, 20 hertz, 25 hertz, 33, 39. They go up, they fade in power. You're always going to see that. You don't really see anything up here. You do see some signals right there. That could be a submarine transmission, by the way, but it also could be some sort of power grid artifact. But you see this kind of low power blue background vertical electric field, but then all of a sudden these huge increases across these frequencies, and it's like this undulating frequency pattern too. And what's so notable about this is that it's going down into this pre-earthquake frequency range. There's a clear frequency range that has been connected to precursor signals for earthquakes, and that's about 15 to 35 hertz. And it can also go above that too. There's a whole bunch of ways that these sort of electromagnetic signals can express themselves, but that 15 to 35 hertz range is really key in particular. So we see that really strongly evident here because we have mode 1, the Schumann resonances right there at 8 hertz. This is mode 2 at 14. There we have 20, and look, that's right where these signals start, and they go all the way through that range and even beyond. And these are much stronger than we've been seeing the other 3 times. We saw some earlier today in the morning, February 13th. We see our time right there. This is February 14th right there at 12 midnight. So this is all February 13th data right there. This is about 8 hours. But we see these signals very, very powerful and actually going even above and beyond 105 hertz. So this is really, really atypical, not something that you see every day by any means. And we're seeing this happen effectively right now at this moment in time. This is breaking news. And here's the combined data graphic showing all the different sets of anomalous signals that we've been seeing out of Cumiana, Italy since February 9th. And so these were the first anomalous signals there, quite powerful. That was definitely a wake-up call when I first saw those. Here's the second set, not as strong, but still quite notable. Here's the third set. This is from this morning, and so they're quite faint. Let me zoom in, but you will see some odd signals here, right there, here, there. Also a couple in that earthquake precursor range. But then again, if we zoom out, we look at these signals, look at how much more powerful they are and also their longer time duration. Now keep in mind, this is a longer time duration for these 2 up top because we're looking at some signals that also kept going across time. We see some of these precursors very low in amplitude, but still existing across time. But definitely by far, this is the most significant of the batch because we even see some of these colors going into the reds, which is, according to that power legend, a higher decibel count. So we see that just in general, these are higher power anomalous signals. Whereas if you look up here, for example, we only go green and yellow. So that's lower in amplitude, lower in power, lower in strength, lower intensity, right? All the different words you can use to describe this. And so we have this very clear sequence, February 9th, February 10th, and then also today on the 13th. That corresponds with when these earthquakes are occurring in the Aegean Sea next to Santorini. Let's talk about it. Here we have a data graphic showing the cumulative energy output from this seismic swarm near Santorini Island. And this allows us to see in general the overall magnitude of this seismic swarm. Right now it's sitting at about a 6.2. So while there's been a whole bunch of magnitude 5 earthquakes, they've all been lower on the magnitude 5 scale, but still quite a few magnitude 5 earthquakes. And of course then dozens and dozens of 4s and hundreds and thousands of the others. Collectively, they combine up to a magnitude 6.2. And if this is some sort of foreshock sequence, then the typical rule of thumb with earthquakes is if you get a foreshock, then the actual main shock will be 1 order of magnitude greater. That's just a very rough rule of thumb. Again, it depends on the length of that fault that can rupture. That's another very important variable as it relates to an earthquake and its magnitude and how long the shaking lasts, all that stuff. But what you'll see here is that you have these periods where we didn't really have that much energy released, right? We see there, right there around the 9th and 10th of February, where basically the line goes flat and then you get some of these jumps. For example, magnitude 5, hits and all of a sudden the energy jumps up. We're right now also at this period where the energy output has basically flatlined because there's been a reduction in the earthquakes. We saw that on that opening graphic. But this is indicative of there just being less earthquakes and less energy output. But what's so interesting is that while we've been having less energy output from this seismic swarm, that's perfectly correlated in time with these anomalous electromagnetic signals that we are observing out of Cumiana, Italy. So the two are lined up perfectly. And with those anomalous signals, the general rule of thumb is that you should see something 3 times in a row to make a trend. And so the first time we saw it, it was like, that's odd, that's very bizarre, woke me up for sure. Then we saw it a second time. Okay, there's something to this. But then this morning when I saw that third batch of electromagnetic anomalous signals, it was like, okay, something is happening. And now we've had that fourth batch of anomalous electromagnetic signals. In fact, the most powerful of them, and they're occurring when this seismic swarm is reducing in its earthquake frequency and also its total power output. So there's something very bizarre happening here. And so while earthquakes go down, these anomalous electromagnetic signals go up, and they seem to be getting stronger and stronger. So that's all I have for you today. Just a quick update. I just really wanted to show you these anomalous electromagnetic signals that we're observing out of Cumiana, Italy. This could be indicative of something occurring somewhere else in the Mediterranean. We've had a lot of activity at Mount Etna. We also, of course, have Campi Flegrei in Italy, but this does seem to be most connected to this earthquake swarm in the Aegean Sea in Greece. And we know that that station in Cumiana, Italy is not too far away to measure these sort of anomalous earthquake precursors. We've had signals be measured 4,000 kilometers away before big high magnitude events. This is only about 1,800 kilometers away from the epicenter of that seismic swarm. So now we have 4 separate instances of these sort of anomalous electromagnetic signals. I highly recommend that you read into the research for this. I'll put some links in the video description to get you started. If you're unaware of this sort of geophysics, it's a fascinating little micro niche, and I highly recommend you explore it. Again, I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Thank you all so much for watching. Smash that like button, subscribe if you'd like to stay up to date and in the know as to what is happening here on Earth and more. And again, please say some prayers for everyone in the Aegean. Hopefully nothing happens. We just really pray that everything calms down soon. We do have this reduction of earthquakes happening at this moment in time, which is a good thing, but it's paired with this really big increase in these anomalous electromagnetic signals. So I don't know what that portends, but something big seems to be coming. So we hope that's not the case, but good to be prepared. Thank you all so much. Wishing you all well and have a great day.